Insider.
Hello everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Speedrun Insider. My name is CJitsallGewd. Thank you so much for joining me this week. I'd like to take a second at the beginning of the show to thank everybody for liking and sharing and doing all the things that you're supposed to do with the podcast. You guys are awesome. It's really helping to grow the show. Every week the numbers go up, so keep watching, keep listening, keep sharing it with your friends. We really appreciate it. And it helps us make more episodes, which is exactly what we want to do. Now talking about my guest today. I promised you guys last week, going to be a great guest today, and I am here to deliver. My guest today is the Super Mario RPG superstar. Ocarina of Time Randomizer will be etched on her tombstone. And she's better at Smash 64 than you are. It's Pidge01. How are you doing, Pidge?
I'm doing well, thank you. That's quite an intro to live up to. I hope I live up to the hype.
Hey, listen, you have nowhere to go but up.
I guess you're right.
This you can go so much further beyond this. This is like a tease. Also, you will regret telling me that Ocarina of Time Randomizer will be etched on your tombstone. That throwaway joke right before the start of the show will follow you.
All right.
Well, talk to me. Let's just jump right out to it. Talk to me about what were some of the games that you played when you were younger? Like, what are your first video game memories?
My first video game memories. I was born in 1989. So, when I was just a little kid, the only console that we had in our household was my dad's Game Boy. That I recall anyway. And I liked to play Dr. Mario on that when I was like a kindergartner and preschool and all that stuff. And eventually, I liked it so much that my parents got me a Super Nintendo for Christmas when I was 5, and I was obsessed with Super Mario World and Star Fox and Mario Kart. Those were kind of my go-to games, until I got Super Mario RPG for my birthday when I was 7, and I fell completely in love, and it's been my favorite game ever since then. Those are kind of like the early memories that I can remember, but I also really like the DKC trilogy. There were some N64 games I really like you mentioned already, Super Smash 64, that was a big one for me. And just, I don't know, anything, any kind of game that I had, I kind of played a lot of it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so funny. I hear so many people talk about the Game Boy. My dad also had a Game Boy, and he had Bass Pro Fishing, which I did not enjoy. So it was like the perfect repellent. It was the perfect kid repellent, because it's like, man, who wants to play the fishing game? So you mentioned Smash 64 in there. I know that I'm opening up a can of worms. I want to go through the whole thing. I know that I'm gonna get outpaced pretty quickly here in my knowledge of the game, but that's okay. We're all here to learn. So, how did you get started playing Smash 64 competitively?
That's actually like kind of a random story. I've always really liked the Smash Bros. Series. I don't think there's a single bad entry in the series. Unpopular opinion, I know, but I sincerely love every Smash game, and I love the Smash mods that have come out too. They're fantastic. Shoutouts to the Project M community. It's just, Smash is a great series. And when I started going to tournaments in 2011, I kind of figured out that they were a thing because I lived across the street from a game store in 2008 to 2010. I lived across the street from a retro game store, ANC Games, in Toronto. And they were sponsoring Smash Bros. Tournaments that were hosted at my school. I went to University of Toronto. And U of T became very difficult to host tournaments at, from what I understand. So they stopped hosting tournaments there. But they also told me that they were soon opening up their own venue that was attached to the store, which was great news because they were using it to host tournaments of any game you could think of. They were doing like Mario Kart 64 tournaments, Street Fighter tournaments, Tetris Attack tournaments on the Super Nintendo. all sorts of stuff like that. It was great. So the competitive Smash community caught wind of this and decided to establish a monthly series there after talking with the owners. So I got to meet like all the people who were super active on Smash boards in the Smash Bros. Brawl community because my boyfriend at the time and I were playing Brawl quite a bit, and he was pretty good at it for like someone that didn't compete in tournaments regularly. So we kept going, and my world was essentially transformed. I had met so many cool people. At my first tournament ever, there was a guy, Peachy Desu, and he saw me and just like immediately like took me under his wing, got me to introduce myself to everyone, make new friends in the community because like I'm super shy when I enter a new community and I have a hard time branching out. So he kind of like forced me to do so and make all these new friends in the scene. And it was all over common interest, so it was awesome. And so I was playing Brawl for a couple years. I still really like Brawl. I help out with Brawl at Super Smash Con every year to this day. Um, Eventually, I decided that I had never really traveled anywhere before, and a bunch of us in my local community were talking about going to Apex 2012, and Apex was like the premier tournament international series back then, which was held in New Jersey at the time. And I thought, you know what, this is a great time to venture out. You know, I'm 21 years old, third year university, got some money to blow, just made a whole bunch of new friends. It's had a trip out of the country on top of that. Um, and when I went there, it was like entering another world. And it really kind of sparked my interest to keep going in the community, even if I wasn't that great of a competitor. I went there with six of my friends from Toronto, and when I was there, I got chatting with like everybody. You know, I met all sorts of Melee players, I met other Brawl players from around the world. I even met some 64 players there, and I even entered the 64 bracket because I always really liked the game as a kid. And I ended up sleeping through my matches, unfortunately. But I love just like kind of watching from afar the 64 setups and just seeing the really cool tech that they were doing, and just kind of shyly peering over and being like, "Oh gosh, they're so cool. I want to play that someday, but not today." Um,
But not
so
today.
yeah, so after a couple of years, it became like more of a trend where at tournaments, tournament organizers, especially back then, their efforts were not appreciated as much as they could have been. So whenever TO was running a bracket, TO obviously being short for tournament organizer, occasionally I would just offer to help. Just be like, hey, do you want me to update this match in the bracket software? Or do you want me to go around and see if there's anybody playing a friendly and kick them off the setup? You know, just little things like that to make their lives easier. And over time, I started taking more of an interest in running tournaments. Um, it was getting to be quite a lot to keep up with because at that time, around 2013, 2014, Smash was really blowing up in Toronto. Competitive Smash was becoming kind of a big thing, and it was super cool to witness that because you know in 2011 melee players and brawl players would go to each other's tournaments just to support Smash being a thing, even if it wasn't their game of choice. By this time, a couple years later, we were so big that we couldn't like really justify having multiple Smash games at the same tournament, except once in a while the brawl tournaments would add 64 as a side event, and these guys would come out and play just in the 64 bracket. Then I would never see them again until the next time we had a 64 side event. So I kind of knew that, you know, there were 64 players in Toronto, just they were a bit of a mystery because there weren't any tournaments for them to go to for me to know who they were. Um, I talked with another friend of mine, Armin, who was from the Brawl community, and he and I kind of agreed, like, hey, you know what? It's kind of messed up that here in the city we have this tournament scene for Melee and Brawl and Project M, but no 64. Why does 64 have to miss out on having tournaments? And, you know, I'm also the kind of person that says, if you think something should be a certain way, don't wait for it to happen, make it happen yourself. So he and I embarked on this new adventure of hosting a Smash 64 tournament series that was only for that game, and would run. We originally started running it every other month and gauging popularity. And the first tournament that we ran at the start of 2014, we got, I think, 30 entrants, which for a 64 only tournament in 2014 was a lot of people, like in just a city, like one city, and not like at a national or something like that. So that was great. And all these dudes who had showed up for the side events before, they all came out in droves. And Armin knew how to find them because he had played Smash 64 net play before, which is kind of where everyone in the 64 community congregated. Because there weren't very many console tournaments back then, and they all had to play each other online on emulator with the Kylera net play software. So that was when I kind of entered that world. Was when I understood that they had this whole sub community going on, like with their net play thing, and they all kind of were in Skype groups together, because 64 players are scattered around the globe, and they didn't really have like local scenes back then. 2014 was a good year for 64 because serendipitously there was me and my buddy in Toronto, and Soto and Wookie in LA, and Shears and friends in MDVA, all just kind of at the same time reached the same conclusion: this game should have a console scene, so I'm gonna make it have a console scene. And from then on, like, it just snowballed into this big thing that it is now. So I loved being part of that and helping this community get off the ground and develop a console community where there wasn't really one before, that I kind of stuck with that game. And just kind of by osmosis, I learned a thing or two about the game. And I was never, like, good. I think I was power ranked for one season, and then I retired from competitive because I was getting into speedrunning around then and didn't really have to stretch my time too thin. But that was my introduction to 64. It was just me wanting to help out with something that I already kind of cared about, and wanting to do a favor for a community that didn't really have a lot of people doing favors for it back then. And it ended up really being awesome. I ended up meeting so many new people from 64 because 64 players don't really have a lot of crossover with other Smash games. Like, most of them don't also play like Melee or Brawl on the side. Like, they just play 64. So when I got into the community, it was like, wow, I don't know anybody here. Whereas when I go to like a Melee or a Brawl tournament, chances are, like, there's somebody who plays the two games who just shows up because they also play the other one on the side. But no, 64 was, like, totally its own thing. Yeah, so that's kind of like my origin story in that game. I hope that lived up to the hype.
So I guess I have a few questions. There was a lot in there, and I have a few questions I kind of want to touch back on.
Sure.
One, I mean, I'm exposing myself. This is really an area where I don't know anything about. Really, fighting games in general, but Smash, like, a black hole of, like, knowledge. But, like, what, you said there's not a lot of crossover. Do you think that's, like, maybe, like, a time thing? Like, maybe, I don't want to say age, but, like, maybe people, they don't have the nostalgia for 64 in the way that they do for Melee, so that's why most people don't go? Or is there, like, a technological component, like the way Smash 64 versus Melee or Brawl, the way that they play makes it, like, antithetical? Like, okay, someone who might enjoy playing those games competitively might not enjoy playing SM64.
It really depends on who you ask. I don't know if there's a single kind of trend that I've noticed. For 64 players branching out, it's not really a thing they like to do. 64 from a technical standpoint is very different from the rest of the series. First of all, like, the combo strings in 64 are more extreme than they are in any other Smash game. Just by nature of, you do an attack on somebody in 64, and the hit stun time, as in, like, the time that passes before they can input another command, after they get hit by something, is much longer in 64 than it is in any other game. And that changes the metagame, like, drastically. Like, there's a lot about 64 from a technical perspective that's different from the other games, but that's kind of like a very big and obviously noticeable one. In case, if you ever watch a 64 match and see that the combos are just ridiculous, that's kind of part of why. And 64 players tend to enjoy that game's mechanics, and because they were never really grandfathered into the rest of the series in a way that was close enough to the original game, they kind of just stick to the one game that they prefer playing because they don't really need anything else from a Smash game. They already have everything they want in the first iteration. And there's also the aspect of some Smash players like to dabble in a couple of different games, but from what I've heard like from a lot of Smash players is that if they play one game, say they play like Smash 4 or Ultimate and they want to pick up Melee, it's hard, but they can pick it up like to get to a level that they're happy with. But then they try to play 64 and it's like entering another universe. It's just like too different, even though they think it's a super cool game, and they might still enter a bracket for 64 like just for fun, just to support the game's numbers because they want to see it rising up. Because 64 historically has had less entrants than the other games, so it's kind of always gotten the shit end of the stick at tournaments that it's been hosted at. So that's also kind of another part of it. Like 64 players are kind of used to being shoved off to the side, and they don't really have an interest in branching out to the rest of the community, partially for that reason. Like being kind of in the spotlight was just not a thing that was super enticing to want to like try to actually branch out into another game. They just want their game to be respected. But a lot of it is like there's like community issues there. There's technical things in the games that would cause one to play one game but not the other, or not even pick the other up as a side game, that sort of thing. I think that answers the question. It really depends on who you ask.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. I think that was a great answer. Talking about some of the other stuff. First of all, you have a wiki page, which I think is like, if I were ever like as into anything, I would hope that it would end with me having my own Wikipedia page or like wiki page.
Oh yeah, Smash Wiki, I think.
Yes. No. Yeah.
I have not looked at that in like 7 years, so probably the data on there is super outdated. I don't even like read Smash Wiki. I'm sorry to whoever maintains that page. Is just I hate reading about myself on the internet, so I just don't.
All right, you want to play? You want to play an impromptu game of is this true or false? Here,
sure.
Based on the Smash Wiki. If you don't like this, we can cut this out later. Okay.
I'm game.
I believe in you. Okay. Are your Brawl mains King DDD and Peach?
I played a lot of characters in Brawl. I played King Dedede, Peach, Ness, Kirby, Jigglypuff, and to a lesser extent, Wario.
You know what? That's all the ones that are ordered on there. There you go. I was trying to throw you a curveball, and you hit it anyway.
A curveball, you say?
A curve brawl.
Sorry, I promise never to make a joke like that again.
No, it's fine. Have you ever seen Coming to America? The movie?
No, I haven't.
At the end of the movie, Eddie Murphy, for one of the roles, plays this old Jewish guy. And he tells us it's in the middle of the credits. In the middle of the credits, he has this scene where he's like, "Hey, you listening?" I can't do it, but he's like, "Man orders a board of soup." And he says, "Waiter, taste the soup." He's like, "Is there something wrong with the soup?" "Will you taste the soup?" "Hey, is there something wrong? You don't like it? You just taste the soup." And he goes on and on. He's like, "Will you just taste the soup?" "Okay, I'll taste the soup." "Give me this. Where's the spoon?" "Aha. Aha." And it's that sound that he makes. And it's Eddie Murphy playing this old Jewish guy. It's this really funny sound effect that he makes.
No, I see.
Yeah. So every time someone makes like a really obvious like hit the nail right on the head joke, I think back to that old man. He's like, "Aha." All right. Did you work with? I guess you would say this is SOJ or whatever. In writing an optimized netplay code for Brawl for use with Dolphin to improve the game launch process.
That actually is true. Back in this, I think was at the start of 2014 when Nintendo announced that their Wi-Fi service was being taken down. So Brawl had built-in Wi-Fi connection. You could just connect to anyone around the world and play them in a game, and they were taking down the servers. So there were two kind of initiatives to make up for that being a thing, one of which was spearheaded by the Mario Kart Wii community. They made new servers because those servers essentially only act as matchmakers. So if you tell them what your friend code is, you can just add a small patch to your game and keep playing like the servers never went down against other people who are also on it. The other method was Dolphin Netplay was becoming pretty popular for Project M, which is a very popular brawl mod for anyone who doesn't know about Project M. It's a brawl mod that adds some sort of melee-esque mechanics and lots of other cool stuff. Definitely check it out if you haven't checked it out before. Brawl didn't really have very good netplay back then. If you wanted to use Dolphin Emulator to launch a Brawl and play against somebody else also playing in Dolphin Emulator, you had to go through like a billion steps to get your save file to a point where it would be synced up, remain synced, and even have your character unlocked. It was pretty bad. Whereas Project M, it was very streamlined. Like you just boot it up, check off a code, and you're good to play. We wanted something similar for Brawl, but I didn't really know anybody who had the technical know-how, so this is like, some people kind of think that if you like PM, you hate Brawl, or if you like Brawl, you hate PM, and sometimes it's true, but not always. Some people think both games are great, they think both games are sick, and some of the Project M developers got into the mod just because they loved Brawl as a game and wanted to do something cool with it. And so a couple of the PM devs I was friends with, and one of them that I kind of knew, his name is SOJ, and he was one of the Project M developers, so he's very, very talented hacker, extremely, extremely good at what he does. And he was super, super, super busy because they were releasing a new version of Project M in a couple days, which is a hectic time for any dev team, trust me on this one. And I asked him if he would be willing to help us release a code for Brawl that could do what the code for PM does, just so that people who want to play Brawl Netplay can just boot it up, check off a checkbox, and be ready to play without all the hassle that was making it basically unplayable. And he said, sure thing. And we sat down, and he did all the hard work. Like, he actually knows about writing like codes to patch a game. I don't know nothing about that. I mean, I didn't back then. I know a little bit about SMRPG now, but back then, like, I only knew like a little bit from what I had read when I was like downloading Gecko mods and things like that. So we had gotten to a point where it was basically me telling him what codes we needed and him giving me like the codes that I would need to accomplish those things, and compiling like a big list of codes that could be launched in just one go. And the only contribution I made to the code was like, we were kind of stumped on getting the stage select screen to work properly. And he had one piece of code that should have worked. I had a different piece of code that should have worked, and neither one of them worked. So I took my code and just stuck it right in the middle of his code and tried that, and it worked. So that's like, that's my Brawl Netplay that's my Brawl Netplay story. But yeah, like back then I had like considerable, I don't want to say notoriety, but like people knew who I was because I went to stuff. So if I went on Smashboard and said, hey everybody, download this thing and you can play Brawl Netplay, like they had a pretty good reason to suspect it was safe and that I knew what I was talking about. So Brawl Netplay to this day is actually pretty like alive. Like there's a Brawl Discord server where the netplay scene in there is very active. So it's pretty cool that like despite the fact that the game kind of fell out of popularity with the release of Smash 4 7 years ago, it still has a community, and the community is alive and kicking. And it was nice to play a part in that.
Yeah, that's a great story, and it's also true. The wiki has so far been correct. Let's see. Is it true you were selected as one of the few Smashers to receive Smash 4 early?
Yes, that is true. That was kind of cool. Because of the work I was doing with the 64 community back then, Nintendo kind of caught wind of that through a friend of mine, T.O. Joe. He's the head of EMG, Even Matchup Gaming, which runs Canada's premier international yearly tournament, Get On My Level. So they're like pretty big news in the Smash community. And so Nintendo kind of like found out I was doing all this stuff, and Nintendo of Canada specifically, they were really cool back then. They wanted to like connect more with the local community and stuff like that. So they sent early copies of Smash 4 to people that were either really good players or really like respected tournament community organizers. So they picked out like 10 to 20 of us and sent us early copies of the game. I think I got Smash 3DS a week early, and I got Smash for Wii U 2.5 weeks early. It was pretty cool. I was also like getting invited
really
to
cool.
Yeah, they were also like inviting me to press events and things like that where I could try out demos of games and that sort of thing. I definitely went to a couple Smash 4 demo events that were only for members of the press. So I was allowed to bring one friend, and we just went and played the Smash 4 demo a bunch, and it was really cool. Yeah, that was a really neat time in my life. There was actually like the story when I got Smash 4 was kind of funny because when I got the Wii U copy, I was actually on my way out the door to go to Ohio to play in a Brawl tournament, and I received the package like an hour before I left, and it was so cool. I was like, oh my god, I have a copy of Smash 4, and I couldn't play it obviously because I was leaving, but I handed it to my roommate Amber because we were friends from the Brawl community. And on my way, like actually leaving with my suitcase when I finished packing, I looked at the TV and Amber was already playing 8-way Smash with 8 DDDs, and I just shook my head and smiled and said, "Never change." But I had taken never change, never
Stay
change.
golden, pony boy.
And I had taken a picture with the Smash Wii U copy that I got, and I posted it to Facebook where like all my friends on Facebook were fellow Smashers, and they knew that I wasn't bullshitting pretty much. And then one of them was like, "Can you take a picture of the disc? Like, just want to be sure that it was the real deal." And I took a picture of the disc, and all the comments, "Yeah, what the?" And like, I just posted that to make my friends jealous, and then I closed Facebook and I left to go catch my mega bus. I fell asleep on the mega bus and I woke up at like 1 in the morning and my phone was like blowing up. It was
That's insane.
I was trying to figure out why, and like I looked at Twitter and it like wouldn't even load because I had too many notifications. And I found out that like another one of my friends had like copy pasted my picture and posted it to like Reddit and stuff, and all these like news articles and all these journalism sites were coming out about like the fact that I had Smash 4, and I'm just like, oh my god, I don't want all this attention. This is sad.
So bizarre.
I turned my phone back off and I went back to sleep, basically. It's like I got this game that I can't even play, and I hated the fact that this picture of me with the disc was circulating because the water in my house was not working, and I hadn't showered yet, and my hair just looked like super gross. I'm like, can you guys not circulate this? I really, really, really need to get to a place that has running water. but yeah, that's my Smash 4 story. It was pretty cool. That was like a huge honor. I have like a bunch of pictures from back then. There's actually a clip of one of the demo events that I went to with my good friend VZ. He went by V115 back then. He's one of the best Zero Suit players in Britain. We went to Sudden Death, and I was DDD, and we were on the Donkey Kong arcade level, where if you shoot a projectile at any of the moving parts on that level, it just like increases the amount of damage that it will do when it hits anybody. And I shot like a projectile, and I was aiming for him, but I missed, and it hit one of the stage hazards and reflected back and hit me, and it like immediately killed me. And he hadn't even moved, and that's I've seen like posts on Reddit where there's like this subreddit called Tip of My Tongue or something like that, and there's been requests for like, can someone send me the gif of the DDD player SDing with a Gordo in Smash 4? Like, and it's always the gif of me doing that. It's that's my legacy. The most epic SD I've ever seen.
Your legacy is getting killed by your own Gordo. That's how I want to go.
Yeah.
Wow. You know, it's funny we mentioned this story I think it's really cool when, especially video game companies, kind of acknowledge their players a little bit. It definitely doesn't happen as much as I think it would. The ways that it does happen, it often feels like, hey, see, we're doing it. We picked a bunch of people that are popular, and we're doing it, huh? Right? So
Yeah.
it's super pandery and not real. It's okay, I think I remember it was a long time ago, but I was working in this production, this TV production facility, and I just taped shit to the floor. Just did gaff stuff. And this guy came to me, and I don't know why, he was this older Dutch guy. And he said, because they were shooting a children's show, and he said, you know what the secret to shooting a children's show is? And I said, what? And he says, don't talk to them like they're children. Because they know and they don't like that. And I was like, so weird. But it's true. The kids don't like it when you talk down to them. And that's how it always feels like when video game companies, when they do something super public like that, it's always oh man, we got blast on all the channels. And it's alright. And it's never to normal people that do stuff. It's we got Casey Neistat. We got Michael Jordan. We got LeBron James playing Mortal Kombat. I'm oh, that's the one that I always think of. Rob Gronkowski and Marshawn Lynch, two NFL players, at the peak of their game at that point, they were playing Mortal Kombat on Conan O'Brien early or something. And I was like, this doesn't make any damn sense. This makes less than 0 cents. I don't think anyone that bought that game because they saw Rob Gronkowski playing it. But I say all this to say, sorry, one sec.
Oh, yeah.
My friend, Silent Hero Live, who just was on the podcast a couple months ago, he posted his entire collection of Final Fantasy stuff. And he was fishing. I mean, if you listen to this one, Chris, you were fishing. You were fishing on that one. And then they replied. And they saw his whole collection. He had every single game, and he had all the boxes and everything. He's a big Final Fantasy fan. He's a super fan. He has all the cool collectible stuff. And it was just so nice to see the smile that it put on his face and the pleasure it brought him to just have that little nod from Square Enix. He has loved those games since he was old enough to walk. And now he gets to he just gets that little nod, and I think that's really, really awesome.
That is awesome. I was just gonna say that it's really funny that you mention kids shows and celebrities playing video games, because I actually used to work on a television show that was for kids about video games.
That is also on your Wikipedia, on your Smash Wiki page. I want to let you know.
Is it actually? Yeah. Oh, that's funny. Yeah, I worked there for about half a year as a production assistant, and yeah, I brought my friend Nakaden. He's a very, very good Smash 4 and Ultimate player, and he was a great Brawl player back in the day. We brought him in because they wanted to have some Smash content, so he came in to do some segments for the YouTube channel that was an extension of the TV show. And the segments that he did, they were pretty good. He's a legit player, and he's talking about actual tech in the game, just in a show for kids. It was, and I thought that was awesome. And we did have celebrities on playing games, but it was always relevant to the game. So a new sports game came out, so they had a player from the Blue Jays actually give a live review of the game with footage and everything like that. But then that review was worked into the plot of the overall episode of the TV show.
Oh God!
The baseball player asks if he can be the new sports game guy on the show, and they say no. So he spends the rest of the episode trolling their YouTube channel, that kind of stuff. It was a fun little show. I really enjoyed working there. I just wanted to have that anecdote because just what you mentioned, it just brought it to mind.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's the 100%. That is the plot for the kids show, right? it's like it just screams of kids show. It's like, we have celebrity guest Ariana Grande. Hi, can I join your Glee club now? Can you even sing? I'm like, God. All right. All right, yeah. So I think I think we covered your Smash stuff to a good extent. Is there anything you wanted to say really quick before we move on to speedrunning? Lest a conversation about speedrunning break out in our speedrunning podcast, but
no, that's most of the important stuff. Like, I still do Smash stuff today, but it's mostly just helping out at tournaments like a couple times a year.
And helping me get better at Smash too, right?
I'm the wrong person. I'm the wrong person to ask for that. I was never good.
Well, you're the only one I know, damn it. I'm awful. I play Ultimate. I play Little Mac, and everyone's like, "That's the worst character." I'm like, man, why don't we just play the character we like to play? You know?
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know who cares about tier lists? It might be you, but it ain't me. It's like, man, you have the worst counters. I'm like, oh, okay. I don't know. I don't know anything. All right, so you mentioned it a little earlier. You're kind of winding down your efforts because you got into speedrunning. So how did you get into speedrunning?
That's I don't know if there was really necessarily one thing that made me get into speedrunning, like one thing that I can pinpoint. It was kind of an amalgamation of things. And my friends in the Brawl / Smash 4 community, they liked watching speedrunning because we had a friend from Montreal. Montreal and Toronto for a very long time would travel to each other's tournaments. So, people who played Brawl in Toronto and people who played Brawl in Montreal, like, they were tight. We saw each other a lot. It was pretty great. And one of the players from Montreal, his name is Morks. He's very good Project M player, and he also is Donkey Kong Country 3 speedrunner. And he has been for a super long time. So there was one time where he had a run in GDQ. I want to say it was AGDQ 2015. He was doing DKC3. That's the one where he had the banana bunch hat and everything. So all of us in the Toronto Brawl scene were super excited and wanted to tune in to support his run and made like a bunch of donations from our community and things like that. And it was really cool to watch. My friends from the Brawl community would message me and tell me if there was a speed run on at GDQ that they thought I would like watching. So I eventually was just watching it during the week, because back then was when I worked on the kids' TV show, so like having a stream running in the background that was about video games, you know, no big deal at all. I can just be watching that while I'm doing my work. So yeah, I spent a lot of time watching GDQ that week. Funny enough, one of the runs that week was Link to the Past by Andy, and the guy who commentated that, Sean Cass, is now my best friend and someone I could not live without. Did not know him at all back then. It would be years before we became friends. Yeah, so there was actually a Super Mario RPG run that week, and I was like, oh, that's neat. I think I donated during that run and it got read, and like I have no recollection of this happening. Yeah, so, you know, I thought speedrunning was kind of cool. We had a few friends that were into it. We liked kind of casually watching GDQ, but I didn't really have a ton of interest in doing it myself. I just thought it was kind of cool to watch other people do it once in a while. I wasn't, like, super invested into the hobby or anything like that. Later, but then, like, that kind of started to change over the next couple months. I enjoyed so much of what I saw about GDQ that I started kind of watching speedrunners more. Like, I was, like, kind of a Trihex fangirl back then because he was doing a lot of Yoshi. And then a few months later, I found out that, there was this tournament, run by, a work here called, Enthusiast Gaming, and they were doing kind of like a pilot event that would eventually lead away to a convention that they were running, a couple times a year, EGLX. So this first pilot event they had was just called EGL, and that was a pretty cool endeavor. They were having Smash Bros, FGC, like LAN games, FPS games, and speedrunning, and different kinds of games just all under one roof. They just wanted to bring all these communities together into one big fun event. And so they had a speedrunning stage set up, and they had speedruns going for the whole weekend. So, like, anyone could just walk in and check out whatever they want. They could go over to the speedrun stage and see a speedrun going on there at any time. So someone told me about this. I was like, oh my god, I have to go. There's going to be speedruns there. I would love to meet some speedrunners and chat with them about their craft. I went there, and I met some really cool people. I met Ajder. Back then, he was like speedrunning a lot of Super Metroid. Nowadays, he plays a lot of randomizers. He plays Super Metroid randomizer. He plays SMZ3 crossover randomizer. And he's very, very, very good at what he does. He's also like the god of Super Metroid ROM hacks. He's so good at them. And he was going to be doing the final run of the event, Super Metroid. So I went over and sat down and was just kind of chilling, waiting for the speedrun stage to start. And he was there, and he came over and he said hi because he recognized me from Twitter. So we became friends from that, and he's still a good friend of mine to this day. It was pretty cool, like meeting him and talking to him about like the run that he had coming up. I didn't really know a thing about Super Metroid, but I was like super excited to watch it anyway. And I stayed until the end of his run, like the very last one on the final day. There were a couple people there too who were invited to come to this event. Trihex was there, and his Super Nintendo wasn't working, and or maybe it wasn't his Super Nintendo, it was the one that was supplied by the event or something like that. It wasn't working, so a bunch of us like went out to the rest of the venue, to where all the vendors were, to see if we could find a system that was usable so that he could do this Yoshi speedrun. And we eventually found one, and in the time that was transpiring, I was chatting with him and Majin Phil, who was also there, and Phil and I were actually talking a bit about Smash 64, which was great because he likes Smash 64. It's always cool to like meet someone new and have a just like common interest like that. And he's awesome. We still like chat from time to time. He lives kind of close to me. But yeah, like after all was said and done, like Triax let me be on his couch for the Yoshi run, and I was like starstruck. I'm like, oh my god, this is like my first dip in community, and I get to be on somebody's couch during a speed run. What the heck?
That's a pretty big first. That's a pretty big first step.
Yeah, like I didn't have anything to say. I think I made like one stupid joke during the whole run. But it was so cool. I was like, oh my god, this is like my first person view into what it's like to be in the speedrun community, even though like I'm kind of just a fan, I don't run anything. That was kind of when, like, after meeting Ajder and having that experience, like I started to kind of think about it, but it was still like not something I thought about a lot because it was a bit intimidating. Around the same time, I was streaming Super Mario RPG once a week. Just a casual playthrough, but it was a casual playthrough with a caveat. I was going through Super Mario RPG, but there were two things I wasn't allowed to do. Number one, I wasn't allowed to gain any experience points that weren't mandatory, aka I could do no level grinding, no random battles, and no EXP stars. I just could only do the boss battles that were required for progression. And the second thing is, I'm not allowed to use any equipment, no weapons, no armor, no accessories. I had done this a couple times before just for a challenge, and but that was offline. And then people on Twitter told me it couldn't be done, so I'm like, no, it totally can be done. I'm gonna stream it just to prove a point. So once a week, I streamed the next leg of this playthrough, just like totally casual. And one day, my good friend Milnium, I didn't really know him back then. He found my stream just from browsing the SMRPG directory. He comes into my chat and he's like, what the heck is going on here? Because he speedruns Super Mario RPG. He used to have the world record. He's phenomenally good. He just got partnered, actually, so shout outs to him.
Shout out to that guy, yeah.
Yeah,
What's his name?
I knew Millennium. It's like Millennium, but missing a couple letters.
Alright, Millennium, shout out.
Yeah, I knew who he was because I watched I Ate Your Pie from time to time. Actually, I was Pie's 420th subscriber. Weird flex, I know, but I was his 420th subscriber.
There's so many names being dropped here. I'm like, trying to keep up. You're like, oh, you met this guy. And then I met Trihex. And then I met Majin Phil. And then I was on Trihex's couch. And then I'm like, I can't keep up. I'm like scribbling these names down. I feel like I need like a typewriter. Oh my god.
Oh, well, I just mentioned Pi because I knew him as, like, the SMRPG streamer that I watched way back then. Like, I would watch his stream once in a while in 2013, back when I didn't understand what any of the tech in the SMRPG speedrun was. I just liked watching the game, so he was streaming it a lot, so I'd watch his channel. And once in a while, he would do a race, and he would race Mill. So that's how I knew who Mill was. I knew him because I'd seen him racing Pi before, so I knew that this is a guy who knows a lot about SMRPG speedrunning because he's pretty damn good at it, who just randomly found my stream from the SMRPG directory and is looking at what I'm doing, and he's like, what the hell is this? So that's how I met him, and he would tell me every once in a while that I should think about attempting to speedrun SMRPG, like that I should just give it a try sometime. And my answer would always be the same thing. It'd be like, no, are you kidding? I'd never be any good at that. It's like, I like playing the game, but I don't think I'd be any good at speedrunning. I don't handle the pressure very well. And then eventually I said to him, you know what? It's gonna be New Year's in a couple months, so here's my resolution. By the end of 2016, I promise I will complete a run of Super Mario RPG. And yeah, that's how I got into it. I tried it. I did one run. I loved it. I kept doing it.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's a great story. Have you been running lately? I mean, your profile doesn't seem.
No, not lately. I'm not retired, but ever since quarantine hit, now that I don't have to commute to work anymore, I have so much more free time in my day. And I have a very, very, very long list of side projects because, like, you know, not only am I a speedrunner, but I'm also a developer. I'm also like an emote artist. There's like a whole ton of stuff that I like to do. And now that I have more time for it, I finally listed out all my outstanding projects that I want to complete, and I'm focusing mostly on those before I get back into a grind that requires a daily commitment. I'm not ready for it yet. But yeah, it's not like off my plate, it's not something that's in my past. It's just a thing that's kind of hovering above me, like, I'll come back to that once I'm done all the other things I need to accomplish. So yeah, the last couple of years have been not very much lately. Like, my last PB was in any percent was 4 years ago. I was running the completionist category most of the stuff a little bit more because I demoed that on GDQ Hotfix for Tina's RPG show, I think in September. Shoutouts to Oxwus for his new route in that category that I helped, like, just kind of make sure all the coins were where they should be and stuff like that. I ran it for the finale of RPG Limit Break 2019. That was great because that category had never really been on the big stage before. Yeah, so I started running the game in 2016, and I decided to stream my practice sessions. And on my very first stream, where I was only like 10 minutes into the run, learning the Hammer Bros fight, like the first thing you learn in the game, someone comes into my chat and hears me say, "Oh, I bet full blocking that attack's not that important." He corrects me and goes, "No, that is pretty important." And that guy now is my best friend. Uh, it's funny. He stuck around. He helped me, and it all just started because I sucked at timed hits in SMRPG. But it was people like him. Like, he was so nice and helpful to this person who didn't know the first thing about speedrunning, and he stuck around in my stream, like, recorded videos to help me understand certain concepts in the run. And it wasn't just him either. There were a lot of people in the community who were super helpful. Like, Lack Attack 24 recorded an entire tutorial video about the whole any percent speedrun back then. And just the community just had so many great people in it that were just so nice and just, like, willing to help out a new person, just, like, trying to find their bearings in a community that's, like, they feel like a fish out of water in. That I decided, you know what? I think I like it here. I think I'll keep doing this. So even though, like, I haven't been doing as much speedrunning lately, I still do a lot of speedrun adjacent projects. So I'm still kind of, like, around. It's just, my actual PBs are taking a bit of a nap.
That's a good way to put it. Yeah, I kind of am the same way. Like, I did when I first started, I did a bunch of speedrun stuff. I did a bunch of games, and I learned new games. And then, like, for me, and it doesn't sound like you had this problem, but for me, I always had this issue where I had a hard time hitting that third level of effort. Like, the first level of effort is like, all right, I'm going to learn the game, and, you know, like, learn the strats for it, and that's it. You know, like, I'm just going to get something down on paper, right? Let's just get a run on video. And then the second level is, okay, how do I make this, like, not awful? Like, how do I get rid of just, like, really obvious bad mistakes, like, oh, I die here because for no other reason than I'm a goof. So let's get rid of that. And then learn some new strats. But that third level where it's like, all right, now you've kind of hit the peak of where what you're doing will take you. And then I am like, I can't find the motivation to grind for a PB. Like, if it's gonna be a grind, I can't do it. I'll put in attempts, but I've got to have, like, not regular progress, but I gotta see that I'm close. And then usually, I'm like, I'll take a break and come back, and then I can never get back. So
I see. Yeah.
That's been my experience, but it definitely does not sound like your issue.
Yeah, like for me, I'm not a very competitive person. Like I played competitive Smash for a while, but I never got very good. It wasn't. I kind of liked being in the community more than I liked competing in the game. And with speedrunning, I'm not super competitive with speedrunning either. The only person whose PBs I care to beat are my own, and if I don't beat them, whatever, I don't care. I like SMRPG as a game, so I just enjoy playing it. I don't feel the need to, like, be super reset heavy if I'm, like, practicing most of the stuff or anything like that. I'm kind of nonchalant about that, and I guess that kind of, like, helps me deal with the quote-unquote grind, because for me, like, it's not really grind. It's just I play this game when I feel like playing this game, and if I PB, that's nice. If I don't, then it was a good D-rest.
Yeah, I feel that. I don't care about, like, moving up the chain or anything, or I don't care about beating anyone else, but I definitely, even in, like, the spirit of personal competition, if I'm not, like, improving or beating myself, that's always the killer. So
yeah, that's totally fair. I definitely get where you're coming from with that.
Especially when you know what you're supposed to do and you can't do it. Like, you can't, like, make your hands do it. That's always really a point of pain, as they say, right?
Definitely. I definitely know a few people who can relate to that.
So I hear that you do all this other stuff, and I want to wrap up here in a few minutes. But, like, what? I mean, it's like you have like 50 side projects. You just rattled some of them off. So what are your kind of, like, plans for the future? Are we gonna get some more speedrunning Pidge? Or are you're gonna be like the world's next greatest emo artist? Like, what do we got planned here for 2021?
Well, I figure, I've got a lot of years left on this earth, hopefully, and I'm not really doing much else with them besides working, so, I just want to keep creating things that are fun, that people enjoy, and do things that make me happy, and a lot of that comes in the form of programming. So, one thing that I was kind of proud of was I built a damage calculator for Super Mario RPG that Claude and everyone else who works on routing any percent uses to kind of route out how battles are going to work, which has saved them several hours of work. And that was really cool to me because I got to actually help with something. I work on Super Mario RPG Randomizer. I'm one of several devs on that team, and we haven't had many new releases in a while. We've all just kind of been busy with other stuff, but getting back into the thick of it, so hopefully new fun stuff on the horizon for that, because I love going into SMRPG Randomizer streams and just, like, listening to people's thoughts, what they like, what they don't like, and just seeing something that I helped create. So in the future, I want to be doing more stuff like that. I have, like, I have a bunch of ideas for things I want to make. I have some app ideas for things that are not related to speedrunning that I'm in the middle of publishing. There's just, like, so much that I want to just put out into the world and hopefully make useful to somebody, or be something fun that someone will enjoy. But, once I'm done with all of those ideas that are swimming around in my head and on my to-do list, I just want to kind of get back to speedrunning, playing the games I like, streaming them, talking to people who like watching it. That's about it, I think.
Yeah. Well, we'll be excited to see what you come up with, what you put out. And then lastly, because we didn't talk about it, and it was in the intro, can you explain the bit about OOT Randomizer being on your headstone?
Oh, okay, yeah. There's, like, a secret. It's not even secret anymore. You can just get it with a frickin' robot. There's a channel in my Discord server. It used to be called Zooter Peeps and Knob Polishers, and now it's called Zooter Peeps and Deep Leffen Enthusiasts. It's kind of like, it was originally a channel where we would organize OT randomizer multi-worlds because I played it and it was super fun. And then it became like 20% a channel to play in multi-worlds and 80% a channel for shit posting. And when we actually play OOT multi-worlds, it very much reflects that culture like a ton because I let people play with us who are at like all different skill levels and things like that. So someone could be playing OOT rando for like the first or second time, and some of us have been playing it like a ton. So we'll play multis together, and there's usually like me and my buddy Demon Smalls are in a lot of them, and if you put the two of us in a room together, my fucking god, it's all you're going to hear for the next 24 hours is just like dick references and shit about knob polishing and this kind and all that stuff. It's like, found your long shot. Oh, I got something long you can find, like that kind of stuff.
Oh my god. Okay.
So that's part of it. The other part of it is that in OT Randomizer Multi-World, if you are stuck with no more checks because you're waiting for somebody else to find you a progress item, you're stuck in what's called BK mode. And it's called BK mode because some person, I don't remember the name, was stuck with no checks left, so said that he was going to Burger King, and so the name is kind of stuck. That's like a community-wide thing. It's not just my Discord. So when I'm stuck in BK mode, I learn more glitches. I learn more OOT glitches so I can do things that I'm not supposed to do just because I need something to do. And this happened so much and got so out of hand that now, like, if I'm playing OOT on my own, I play exclusively on glitch logic. And like, to OOT speedrunners, nothing I do is really all that impressive, but to people who, like, don't speedrun OOT and just kind of play randomizer casually, they think, like, I'm an idiot because, I'm just sitting there with nothing to do, and all of a sudden, yo, guys, I got into Forest Temple's Child Link, and everyone else in the call is like, dear God, okay, someone shoot me, like that. It's just like, what the hell is wrong with Pidge? It's like, this is getting too degenerate, like, it's just things like that. That's why I just, like, said the OT Randall thing earlier, because I've been playing, like, a bunch of that lately when I need a break, and my friends want to do something.
Yeah, I right before the start of the show, I asked Pidge, would Super Mario RPG be the game on your headstone? Kind of like what is the game that you're like known for, right? And I ask people that from time to time, and she kind of like mumbled under her breath a little bit. You mumbled. You're not a mumbler, but you did mumble in that moment. Oh, my friends would probably say OT randomizer. And I was like, I had Notepad open and I was writing the intro that I was gonna do, and I was like, oh, that's going in now. Like, I had something else in there, some other superlative, and I just like, oh nope, Control A, delete. All right, here we go. We're writing it in. We're doing it live.
I'm definitely not like known for OT randomizer. Just my friends love to make fun of me about it, so that's just why I said that.
Yeah. So we got that in. I had to explain it because I was like, man, we didn't say anything about it at all, and I don't want this to be like a joke that people are like, why'd you say that? Like, yeah, you know, like so. I made a joke. I'm not going to say what podcast it was. I'm not going to say what it is, but I made a joke in one of the podcasts, and I get DMs about it. It's not like we're setting the world on fire with this show, but it's on enough. People listen to it enough more than they watch it on YouTube, and I get people all the time DM me, what did you mean by that? I'm like, oh god, no. I'm like, I wish we explained it in the moment. Now it's like, it's not funny anymore. Because every time, it's like, you can't win. Once you tell people the joke, after it's been built up for so long, all they can go is, oh.
Yeah.
So it's like, I thought about this, I'm like, it'll be funny right now. Especially because it's named Deep Leffen Bot, which is just, like, I don't know shit about Smash. But I know that Leffen is the bad guy, and that Deep Leffen Bot on Twitter is the only Smash content that I follow because it's really funny.
Yeah, half the time in my channel is just people posting, like, tweets from the Deep Leffen Bot.
Yeah. It's like, let me tell you what, that bot has permeated through the barrier of competitive Smash into the mainstream. If I found that, dang. Like, dang. Anyway. So, thank you so much for being on the show. Really appreciate it. This is a really fun conversation. I want to thank everybody for listening to the show. If you didn't know, you can get the show on YouTube, where it's uploaded every Wednesday in the afternoon. So usually, and right after, it's uploaded to Google Podcasts and Amazon Podcasts and Spotify, so you can get your audio fix in. I know that I listen to all my podcasts on Spotify. I download them. It's a great app. So if you're looking for my preference, and yeah, like I said, I've been saying this. We want to keep the show loose. We don't want the people that are on the show to be dictated by how well the episodes do. So if you guys keep sharing and you keep telling your friends about it and you keep liking and you keep the downloads going, we can keep the podcast doing cool stuff and we can interview anybody that we want, you know? I don't have to beg. Oh, you know what? I don't have to give Trihex my SNES and hope that he invites me on the couch. To tie it all in, right? To wrap it all up. So I want to thank Pidge again. You were amazing. Thank you so much. I learned a lot about Smash today. And yeah, I hope everyone has a great rest of your day, and we'll see you next week where we have another wonderful guest. Thank you, and bye-bye.